Welcome back. My guests tonight are Success Matatsiane, General Secretary of the National Union of Public Service and Allied Workers, as well as Chief Economist at the South African Institute of Race Relations, Ian Cruikshanks. We're discussing rising fuel prices and whether anything can be done to bring them down, and if indeed there is something that can be done, why it is that it hasn't been done. Now, Success, before we went to a break, I wanted to ask you to, Ian sort of did make a couple of suggestions from where you said, where can changes be made to actually, remedy the situation?
No, so I think I've already mentioned to say, for instance, if government can, for argument's sake, Ian can be best placed to calculate that. If they were to revert, to put back 10%, for instance, on the company tax to 32%, I can tell you that will generate a lot of revenue sufficient for most of the issues without going back to the 45%. I'm just mentioning 10%. And I was also cannot leave this lying down on the issue of graduates wanting to work for government. Graduates want to work for government because of mere job security, nothing more. Not to say that there's a lot of money there, but it's merely for the job security, which is obviously inherent within the public service.
We'll agree
it
to
is,
disagree.
Yeah, that's why I had to clarify that one. So the setting aside of the levy or part of the levy, like I've already indicated, from the 3 rand 33 that's currently being levied, hopefully if we were to cut that by 50%, you will release a lot of amount, almost 35 billion, towards alleviating the issue of the petrol prices as well. We've heard that the government wants to do this, to give ministers two weeks to do so. But to us, I mean, that's cheap politicking, because they knew about this. They are the first to know about the petrol price increases. Now they cannot, after it is done, and then say, no, we are setting up people to do that in 2 weeks. They were supposed to do whatever they say they want to do before the petrol price increased itself. Like I say, that's cheap politicking. And we'll give them that opportunity, that 2 weeks, and then thereafter we'll have to see what
they come up with. Now, Ian, I mean, if that National Treasury panel of experts that's going to look into the impact of fuel prices, as they will be going about doing whatever it is that they have been asked to do, in your view, what can they possibly realistically do?
Take a long-term view. Make South Africa a more attractive investment destination. Stop talking about confiscating assets without compensation. All these sort of factors chase capital away instead of attracting it. We had a multi-billion rand outflow of capital from the JSE. We're finding no fixed investment. We've got to have fixed investment to put up factories, to put up infrastructure, to create jobs in which we can then hopefully improve a greater standard of living from the majority. But first of all, we have to make it somewhere where there is a desire to operate there. By putting your tax rates up by 50% is not going to accomplish that. That's going to make it even more likely that the international rating agencies, when rating South Africa, will say, well, this is a disadvantage, not an advantage. It's an unwelcoming tax construction that they have. I think that this is definitely taking a longer-term view, but if we don't look at the longer-term view, we're never going to improve at all. And I think that's really what's required.
But why should anyone continue to pacify capital when it seems they are never happy with anything? Now, if you look back at the past 20-odd years, right, that we've had a democratic government, every time there is a problem or there's a need to either grow the economy or introduce some measures which will may keep the economy on its feet. There is always a demand. Today it'll be unfriendly, labor. On the next day it'll be a bad neighbor. I remember for the longest time Zimbabwe was a problem. Well, and then our government would say, yeah, but we have nothing to do with Zimbabwe. No, bad neighborhood effect and that sort of stuff. Labor is expensive and it's making incredible demands. And on a different day, we'd also hear that the same people are sitting on trillions of rands which they're not reinvesting in the economy. So it seems that the people you're talking about continue to make demands, but never really putting stuff on the table, especially in times of crises.
I think you say putting stuff on the table. I think it has to start with government, who create an infrastructure, who build the roads, the railways, the harbours, on which or next to which or from which we can develop the corporate structure, the factories, the elements which will provide returns on capital. And I must say, capital flowing into South Africa since 1994 has had a huge increase, and government must be given credit for the amount that they have done. Not enough, but how much they have done, very worthily as far as that infrastructure is concerned, as far as education, medical facilities. Yes, there's a heck of a lot more to be done, and perhaps the allocation of resources hasn't been to everybody's desirability. Well, that's understandable. You can't please all the people all the time. But I do think that they must be given credit for moving in the right direction, but very slowly, and allowing themselves to be diverted into non-essential areas, which has definitely happened. Just a quick thing, let's say we don't have to have as many expensive cars in government service as we do have. And I see your quiet smile with that. And I think that this is the thing. May I just make one point, having had a son who worked for an NGO, and they had to do a rescue plan. And they came along and they said, all right, here it is. Do this. It ought to work. Give it a try. No, we won't do it. We don't want to take any risks. You do it for us. But what about the cost? It's going to cost government a whole lot more. And we recommend that we will train your people. They're not prepared to risk their positions, their cheap mortgages, the cheap car loans, and so on, and improved lifestyle. And we've got to have an attitudinal change for not just government, the economy as a whole, population as a whole, and that then will allow us to grow the economy. Grow the economy, we'll create more business, we'll create more financial activity, and that way we'll be able to get the revenue at current tax rates without raising them to supply, to fill the holes in the road.
Success, but I want to ask you as well, apart from, and one, I understand where you're coming from, apart from the necessity of bridging the apartheid wage gap, right? Apart from the demands that you're making when you compare workers to, for example, the bosses and how much they earn. What can you point to and say, as labor, this is what we've put on the table to demonstrate to all and sundry that we are, or we do want to be part of growing the economy and making sure that there are more jobs and
I don't understand what is it that we can put except our labor. It is our labor, efficient labor, that we have consistently, I must say, many public servants are putting their best. They are obviously, like in any other community or society, some bad boys in that. But most of the public servants are really giving their best towards growth. And this issue about growing the economy, or the land, expropriation of land without compensation, it's going to hamper the economic growth. That is not true, because just before the EFF and the ANC agreed on the without compensation, everybody was fine, the whole world was fine with the constitution as it stands, and everybody was arguing that there's no need to write this word without compensation, because it is inherently there. Everybody has been arguing that. But that did not assist in growing the economy. People are still holding back and getting the most out of the country at the moment and still demanding more. Like you correctly said when you said there's always demands from capital that they want this and that concession. They've just been, they were saying the labor laws are too stringent. Here is our rights to strike have been taken away now in order to appease them. But that still has not made any impact in growing the economy. Everybody's talking about growing the economy, but there's nothing that we're seeing. I'm not sure, I must say, I must concede, I'm not an economist, but I don't, when there's a growth in economy, we'll see more and more people going to work. But instead, the opposite is happening. More and more people are being laid off. Mercedes-Benz now is doing their own thing as we speak. And a lot of other companies are retrenching workers. So we are trying to answer a question on what we have, which obviously our sweat and hands. We are putting all that towards growing the economy, but unfortunately capital is not, and government, they are not prepared to walk that path with us. Instead, they are seeing us as people who just want increases and so on, people who are lazy and so on. That's how they see them, and that we take exception to, and I must say, public servants or workers are not, they are doing their, are not as you think they are, those people who are just coming in just to get money. They are doing their best, waking up early hours, even to put up in congested transports and so on, in order to come and give you your products. But that you still don't recognize. You were saying there are a bunch of lazy people.
No, I didn't say that.
No, I mean, that doesn't, when you're saying people are overstaffed and overpaid, that's what you mean in real terms.
May I answer
Quick,
that?
10 seconds.
Yes.
We've run out
Okay.
of time.
I think I'd like to acknowledge that the advance in workers employed, qualifications that they hold, has been magnificent. It's been one of government's great achievements. However, what needs to be done hasn't been filled in. We've got this Gini coefficient, the difference between the highest paid and the lowest paid, widest in the world. We aren't doing enough about that.
Okay.
But perhaps we're not filling in at the bottom level. That's what needs to be done. That will create a more vibrant economy. Then we'll get the tax to have a lower.
That's it.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank
It's
you.
a debate that we'll have to continue, which we can't exhaust in one program. And that's how we come to the end of tonight's edition of As It Happens. My name is Vuyo Mvoko. Have a good night.